What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Aaron Canola. Welcome back to the Movie Battleground. Today we have two guys I'm very excited to see. The first has been highly praised by everyone that I have spoken to, but I have never actually had a chance to see him do it myself because he started playing after I had stepped away. And the other is a complete and utter unknown quantity to me. I actually literally just met him for the first time when he joined the call. This is Amaru Moses versus Shannon Briggs, and we're going to go ahead and not even waste time. Let's just get to the competitors. And first, I'm going to bring in the unknown quantity, Mr. Shannon Briggs. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Well, first off, nice to meet you. Second off, you are one of the few totally unknown quantities to me, whether it's someone I hadn't met or somebody I knew through trivia. Almost everyone who signed up I was aware of, and you were one of the few people who signed up that I had no clue off the bat who you were, but I was like, well, he commented, so I at least know he's a person. So here you are. So why don't you do me the favor of just introducing yourself to me?
Oh, well, hello. I said my name's Shannon. I'm a movie lover. I've been a big fan of like watching the Schmoedown originally, and then that led me into the Facebook groups of trivia, and I been was able to be a part of Jack Old Trivia. I played a few matches on there. Actually, I played against Amaru in one of them, and I've also played on I think your sister station, the TMG Geek, the picture in picture.
Yes. Yeah.
Once. I love to be in it more. I have a had a busy schedule with school and stuff as well, and but since I heard it was going to be an option of that was similar to the movie background, similar to movie fights. Since I watched that program a lot, that I felt like it would be a great way to show them like my passion for as far as films and like certain genres and other things that I've always wanted to be in and experience, and I just can't wait to just be part of it. Whatever happens, I'm going to have a fun time. That's the main goal.
Absolutely, man. And I look forward to seeing you have that time. I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back for just 1 second before we get started. All right, and introducing his opponent. He has been here before, although I'm excited to actually have him here for the first time myself. If you guys know the Schmoedown, which I feel like probably 100% of our viewership, considering who watches the channel, does know it, you probably know this guy's name. He's doing a little well for himself this year. He is Amaru Moses. How's it going?
Good. I'm tired. School is back. That means work is back. It means the tiredness is here. But that will not stop me from doing probably my favorite thing, or at least it's very close because I love arguing about shit. Can we cuss? Can we cuss? Or would you like to?
No, please say what the fuck you want.
Good. Then we will have a good time later.
Yeah, no holds barred. Same goes for you, Shannon. No holds barred. Say what the fuck you want. I purposefully mark not for children when I upload these. We're playing it safe. So yeah, man.
I'm excited to get back into debate. It's been a while. I still feel robbed of that geek championship. But hey, I don't have it, and I should also have the sports one. But at least that one, I see why it went the other way. But whatever. But yeah, I'm ready to go. Even the tiredness will not stop the fire when it comes to just a good old fashioned. Let me tell you every reason why you're wrong.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm not going to make you wait anymore. Let's just start telling each other why we're all wrong as I go ahead and bring Shannon in here. And let's go ahead and get into it. Movie Battleground, as was said, is a game of debate. It is a best of 5 rounds. The first to 3 points wins. Each round is worth a point. If a competitor here happens to get 3 in a row, that does result in a knockout. If it's tied 2-2, we do go to the blind round after these 4 rounds. But we'll get to that when we get there. The first 4 rounds are normal regulation debate. The competitors see the questions well in advance. They have had time to prepare their arguments. It happens in 4 stages. You have a 60-second opening argument. They will then have 2 minutes to follow that up with their pitch, their continuation of their argument. They will have 4 minutes of open debate. That's where they scrap, fight, have a go at each other to get in as much as possible, and then they will have 60 seconds to wrap it up and close it out. So with that said, prior to the show, because of the way the wheel fell in the random spins at the start of all of this, Amaru was deemed the favorite today, although the fact that he just humble bragged about 2 title shots would tell me statistics would probably say so too. So he got the choice of which questions he goes first on, and you did pick 1 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our timer into the call and pause it so it doesn't go too far on you. We'll go ahead and begin question 1, which is he has a new film coming out very, very soon, or maybe it's already come out. I forget when this uploads, quite honestly. But it is Cry Macho, and the question is, what is the best film directed by Clint Eastwood? He has had a very, 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 very long and illustrious career. He is like 90 years old. He is still directing when he's not screaming at chairs for fun, and we are going to argue over which is the best of those films. And Amaru, you're up first. The time starts when you begin speaking.
Shannon, good luck, sir. This is going to be a blast.
You too, Amaru.
1992, the Western as a genre was thought to be dying, and then comes one of the greatest Westerns, movies, films of Clint Eastwood's career, and that's Unforgiven. It has great performances all around, an amazing score and cinematography. It's a beautiful story about what we want to be and how we want people to see us versus what we really are. It won the Best Oscar for a Best Picture for a reason. Gene Hackman won Best Supporting Actor for a reason. It is everything that you want in a Clint Eastwood film, and everything you didn't expect in a Western. And with that's what I'm picking for my best film, and I can see the rest of my time.
All right, absolutely. We can go ahead and skip. Oh, I'll let it roll. All right, Shannon, I'll pause the clock if you're not ready, but time starts when you begin speaking.
Well, my pick is actually what's Clint Eastwood's follow-up from Unforgiven, A Perfect World. This revolves, it's a drama, revolves around escape convict, probably Kevin Costner, who ends up kidnapping a boy that's part of Jehovah's Witnesses, and surprisingly they end up bonding. But also while he's on the run, there's a Texas Ranger played by Clint Eastwood that is going after him, but not for necessarily for the reasons that you think. It's this film is, I would consider it doesn't get talked a lot, hasn't been talked a lot, but as far as about his filmography as a director, but I believe it's one of his most beautiful and compelling films that he has done, and I feel like it's also it may also make you look as far as like Kevin Costner as an actor and how he is in another light.
All right, and that'll be time on the open. I'm going to read back to you for 2 minutes when you speak.
So as I stated, Unforgiven is about who we want to be and what we want to be versus who we really are. And Clint Eastwood is an old widower living with regret of his past, trying to live up to what his wife saw him as when he was at his lowest. The Schofield kid, I don't remember the actor's name, like James Willett, I think, actually. He plays the Schofield kid, trying to prove he's more than what a disability, being blind, makes of him. It has a standout supporting cast. The fierce Francis Fisher, a charming Richard Harris, who is brought down in an amazing fashion by a scene-stealing Gene Hackman, who does what he does best. You respect him and hate him at the same time. The more the movie goes on, the power that he wields as a unjust sheriff is backed up by his willingness to wreak havoc on his enemies. But what makes this movie so great is that Clint Eastwood takes the Western and flips it on its head and deconstructs what Westerns usually are. And he makes all the characters human by making the violence you see in Westerns more impactful, because he actually shows that it's it's horrific and it's nasty. And usually in Westerns, macho characters are really heroic, but he's showing that those macho characters are actually ugly in the violence they portray, because people take violence way too lightly, as exemplified by when the Schofield kid, yes, he's blind, but his true blindness is when he's trying to be the big man saying, I've killed 5 people. But in actuality, it takes him so long to actually shoot and kill somebody for the first time. And he thought it would make him macho in the Old West, when in reality, it just makes him an ugly person. And it's more of a hero that he's helping the prostitutes get revenge, not because he's killed 5 people. It turns him into what Clint Eastwood character's William Money actually was in the past, a villain. And Clint Eastwood takes the entire film showing why he wants to redeem himself, why he wants to be a better person than he was, when in reality, he was just always the villain.
And time. All right, Shannon, back to you. 2 minutes on the clock when you speak.
Okay. A Perfect World is 2 stories that will intersect together. The first one, like I said, was about Kevin Costner escape convict and what happens when he kidnaps a boy. It's one of the things where, like, that obviously when he meets the boy, that they has never had a father figure, and Kevin Costner's character was abused by his father, and they had formed a bond where, in his own way, as being kind of like an outlaw from justice, he kind of shows his kid independence and the kind of like growing up of how life is in his way. But he also refills himself as more in the gray area. He's not a good guy or a bad guy, but he is willing to do anything if he can to be able to fade the lull. And the other one's about Clint Eastwood, his character. He is after Kevin Costner's character, but he is feeling remorse because he's in the past. He believes that decisions he made whenever he was a child caused him to become the outlaw, and it's a lot of deals with him and Laura Dern as a criminologist along with him that to try to set this wrong right. And the beautiful thing about Perfect World is I think it gets the best performance from a child. It was played by Philip Perry, who that he is. It's one of the best performances by a child that I've seen. He really conveys like the innocence, but also like how much he begins to like see Kevin Costner's character as a father figure, and it also revolves around the days before the Kennedy assassination, and it revolves around the very end of it, how the characters end with the confusion that America was feeling at that time, and not understand how the world gets this way.
All right, and that will be time on the 2 minutes. All right, guys, 4 minutes on the clock. The time will start when the first person begins speaking. As a friendly reminder, obviously you guys can cut each other off, get into a debate here, but still remain respectful. Don't hog all the time. Don't be too selfish, but have some fun with it. 4 minutes on the clock. Time starts when you speak.
Here's the problem with The Perfect World. It is slow, and it's not slow because of the pacing. It's worse than that. It's slow because you have no remarkable performances. Everybody in that film is done better in something else. If I wanted to see Clint Eastwood say, chasing after somebody, or somebody else running from the law, I'd watch The Fugitive. I'd watch Shawshank Redemption. Laura Dern doesn't do anything more than any other cop you've seen in any other film. And you mentioned that it has a great connection between the two of them because they both didn't have father figures. That would be a great story if the movie started out its first 30 minutes making any sense at all with the characters. One, Kevin Costner, when he escapes with his convict, with his roommate, he says, I don't like you, meaning there's going to be conflict between them, right? So when they get to the part where they break into a house for no reason, why would you break into a house when you're running from the law? You think he would come in and stop the partner from messing with the wife? No, he gives the kid to point a gun at him. Why? Why? Leading you to a more dangerous situation than they want to be in as fugitives. It doesn't make sense and makes any connection in the future part of the movie mean nothing.
Okay, well, I disagree. I feel like that. Yeah, this is like one of like especially Kevin Costner coming off from like the like Dance with Wolves, and especially like something like Robin Hood Person Freeze, where he can be in a big budget movie, but then he also hardly try as far as I can ask her, and he will. But in this film, I feel like he has great charisma with the boy. And also Clint Eastwood, I feel like his character in this as a Texas Ranger is also kind of a referendum on his as far as the low man on the Dirty Harry as well. Like his character is more the can actually see that just because he plays God sometimes with a person's life, that would maybe it's not a way to go as a low man whenever you're trying to decide how to be able to handle that. And also with Unforgiven, I would say that the biggest problem is I feel like is the actor playing the Schofield kid, Jameis Woolett, and also Ann Thompson that plays the sex worker gets her face cut up. I think they're in spirits kind of lessons the scenes with them with more experienced operators like Clint Eastwood and Francis Fisher. Like I feel like Clint Eastwood's big speech towards the end of it, like about hell thing killing men. I feel it's completely undermined with the Schofield kills like reaction. Like it just doesn't quite fit with it. And also same thing with as far as like his scene with the sex worker. It with a better. I feel like with more like more experienced actors, or they would be able to convey scenes better. And it just doesn't. It can only go so far with that, with like Eastwood and Hackman and that as far as conveying scenes. And also, Clint Eastwood has played. I feel like he keeps playing this part he does in Unforgiven in like other ways about like people with a troubled past and stuff that like he's gone do this with like Gran Torino and like The Mule and stuff, like kind of like these kind of like sort of neo westerns in themselves. But I feel like with the Perfect World, he's kind of like really kind of tested himself to be able to do something like out of his wheelhouse, like focus more on a child character and kind of more about the effects of the like how of like the violence and like the what happens when we do not have like we lose the guiding force or the father figure in our life, and how that can.
Here's the thing about your comment with Clint Eastwood. All those movies came after Unforgiven, so he's basing it off of Unforgiven, and inexperience has nothing to do with being able to do that. That's why you have all those characters. But I could tell that the Schofield kid was scared when he was shooting, and Ann Thompson does the same thing in The Crow later, meaning she does it well.
Time. All right, getting in that point at the end. All right, guys, so we have 1 minute on the closing. Amaru, you're up first to continue. Time starts when you begin speaking.
A Perfect World tries to lean on the charisma that Kevin Costner kind of has in a relationship with the kid. The problem is none of that follows through because the story doesn't make any sense. You have convicts who are doing things to keep them from running from the law. You have a kid who in 2 seconds trusts the convict who just kidnapped him from his mom, who apparently he loves because he tries not to go trick-or-treating later in the film. So there's some kind of connection. Why would you even go and be with and connect with that person in 2 seconds? When it comes to Unforgiven, you actually get something new. You actually get a deconstruction of the old Western tropes, and you get messages that shows, oh, Westerns are dying, and here's why it's dying. It's because let's actually show a reality to what the violence is like. Let's actually give young actors to play off of experienced actors, and everybody just become better because of it. Gene Hackman is amazing. Richard Harris is amazing. Clint Eastwood does what he does. And Francis Fisher kills it, and Unforgiven is top down.
And time. All right. Shannon, I go to you for the final minute on the clock. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Okay, the late Roger Ebert, in his review of Perfect World, said it's a film any director alive might be proud to sign on. And I believe that, yeah, that Clint Eastwood shows that proudness in that film as far as like trying to do to show try to kind of show like how how the confusion of the innocence of America can be conveyed with the innocence and the loss of this story, whereas Clint Eastwood's character trying to save Kevin Costner's character in a way, and he gets so close, but in the end loses that battle. And then he says, I know nothing, not a damn thing. And it's like, I feel like that Unforgiven, it's a great Western, but I feel like there's been other great Westerns that came on it. It's also been referendums on Westerns as well. And I also feel like Clint Eastwood's actually been better in other Westerns, such as I Put the General and other one. But in it, I feel like A Perfect World is a almost perfect.
And movie. Time. All right, that'll be time on the clock, guys. Great fight. I'm going to go ahead and send our competitors to the back for the moment, as I am not alone in this. I have 3 great judges with me. I have Alan Shepard, Haven Pendergast, and Noah McCausland with me to give their opinions. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and start with the doctor up top. In about 30 seconds or less, if possible, or as concise as you can get it, give it to me. Who won and what sold you on their win?
Well, both great choices. 2 of the films that I would have chosen myself. I love A Perfect World. I think when Shannon said it was underrated, it's exactly an underrated gem of a movie. But I think every time Amaru attacked him, he had a really good comebacks. He had really good reasons to know this is, not exactly the attack you're making doesn't hold water. I think Shannon did a really good job of that, but I think Maru did just a little bit better of saying which ways that Unforgiven changed the dynamic of Westerns moving forward since its initial release. So I think I'm going to go with Amaru.
All right, so Amaru gets the first vote. Haven, I go to you next. Who gets your vote and why, as quickly as possible?
Yeah, man. I'm in the same mindset as Dr. Spaceman. They both had great arguments, but Amaru was able to talk about The Perfect World, actually bring in scenes from the movie and why it made no sense. The slow pacing. He talked about the great acting from Unforgiven, from the young actors to the veterans. And during the 4-minute argument, he just was able to break it down more of why The Perfect World wasn't the movie against Unforgiven. So I'm going to give it to Amaru. He brought the fire. How about telling Daddy chill?
All right. Noah, I'm happy to have you here as a judge for the first time, but we will hear your voice on the next round, not this one, as we have the first point to Amaru. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys all to the back and bring back on our competitors as we go ahead and get on to question number 2, which is related to the Wizarding World, which is something, thanks to our competitors, it's a fan favorite amongst the competitors. So it's come up more than once, and it is here once again. Look at the 2 gentlemen's experience and take a guess which one picked it. But with that said, we've talked about worst film, most underrated film. We've only talked about the film, so I thought we'd get a little more interesting with our question this time around. And in a world so full of great characters, I had to ask, what Wizarding World character should get their own sequel, prequel, or spin-off film? So obviously any of the 3, you can take any approach that you like towards this, but with so many random characters, it had to be a question like this time around. Shannon, you are up first for this one. So as I go ahead and bring up the timer and I'll get it reset, time starts when you begin speaking.
Okay, my idea is since where the Fantastic Beasts and Crimes in Grindelwald it was such a wet blanket of a film. I felt like I could go and pick a character that I feel like could bring kind of more of a fun comedic vibe to it, and the character that's appeared in a few of these movies, but has never really been fleshed out or given the time to really understand what's his backstory too much. And I went with Nearly Headless Nick. I feel like it's a great character that has a backstory that could be great and elaborate on it. I mean, it was played by the greats John Cleese, and feel like he definitely is a comedic legend, and It's but I feel like like it's a character that we would love to know more about.
All right. That'll be time on the opening. Amaru, time starts when you begin speaking.
There's only one character in the entirety of the Wizarding world who is so interesting and so well-rounded, but we don't know much about. He's charming, he's eccentric, he's exciting, he's intolerable, he's a fraud, he is scary intelligent to be able to gain success even through the eyes of those and past the eyes of those that knew he was a fraud. And of course, I'm talking about Gilderoy Lockhart. That is the story I want to know. How the hell did he get to where he was at? We need a prequel to figure out a character that has so many unanswered questions and can create entertainment in a variety of ways. Who let him in, fam? Who let him get to where he was going? How was he able to do that? That's what we all want to know. Gilderoy Lockhart is my choice, and I can see the rest of my time.
All right, Shannon, I'm going to let the clock roll out. I'll pause it if I need to, but the time will start when you speak. If you want to just let the clock roll, you can start when it resets.
Okay, I feel like nearly his Nick. Like you could like he's like you could go back to you could add a prequel and a spinoff to it. Like a prequel can go back and see like what was the comedic offense that led to him becoming nearly headless. I mean, I'm sure it's with John Cleese. You'll be several cornucopia of British talents that can go with this film that will like show what happened, and also can you guide with him like telling new people, Gryffindor people, and you don't have to necessarily include like Harry Potter. It can be from any time since he is a ghost. And his present time, he could also focus on him trying to get into the headless hunt that he's always been trying to, but never allowed to get into because the technicality of him being nearly headless. And I would like to see him try to find like loophole, maybe team up with a bunch of the other ghosts of the castle, Gryffindor castle, and try to get that loophole in. And he's keep budge around by the big snobby the leader of the group that doesn't want anything to do with him, and it would really be a good comedic vibe that would help. I mean, it would be different than anything that's been around in the Harry Potter films, and you would have, like I said, John Cleese, and there's several like you could do different people. You could do like Matt Berry or Richard Ioli, or I mean, Katze, or several British people that could go in and delve into this funny like backstory or what's going on now and see like understand what happened to this character, like what was the strange serious offense that led to his execution, and also like this character trying to also like kind of like find himself and find how he belongs in this around River for these several hundred years. It's just an interesting, funny character that you could learn more about.
And time. All right, Amaru, time starts when you begin speaking. You are muted.
Of course, I'm muted. Trying to make sure there's no noise in Shannon's one. My bad. All right. We love anti-heroes, but Gilderoy would make the ultimate anti-villain story. We know he's a fraud. We know he has done the ultimate wrong to others. Yet his charisma and his smile and his hilarious attempts at fooling others is something that we can't help but watch. And I want to see what made him him. I want to see what made him so ambitious. What made him so skilled at fooling others that only a memory charm is needed to steal from them and ruin their lives. How can a man so ill-equipped at magic have a more deadly tongue than the most skilled of wizards? His tongue is doing more damage than wizards that have trained for their whole lives. It's ripe for comedy, even with a younger Gilderoy. Having somebody trying to live up to Kenneth Branagh will make it even funnier. It'll have the ultimate drama, as he is, again, the ultimate villain. Think about it. Gilderoy Lockhart is Dolores Umbridge, but charming. He is the only one that has that amount of ruthlessness, but we still love him or love watching him. There's prime for action, the intrigue, the mystery that comes in the intrigue of how he came to be is going to bring everything together, and why we should get a prequel. When it comes to Nick, what are we going to see that fills out a movie? You said the comedic event of him becoming nearly headless is one scene of his life, not a whole movie. Everything you mentioned is just a scene. He doesn't have enough to fill an entire movie. And then
hold on, Shannon, hold on.
Still my 2 minutes.
Hold on.
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry.
You're good. You're new to this. I paused the clock.
Yeah, are we going to do a prequel, or are we going to do a same time as Harry Potter? Everything is just a scene that doesn't fill out a movie. And if we do try to fill out a movie, what we're going to get? Another medieval film, kind of how the feeling that Harry Potter already has? Or can we go with something that Gilderoy in a little bit more modern times, not too far behind, to give a more modern film? There's nothing new about Nick that we haven't seen in a bunch of movies. Anything new that we want to learn about him can only fill out a scene, where Gilderoy has so much to see in a whole new film.
And time. All right, I'll give Shannon a chance to unmute his mic. And when the first person
I apologize
speaks,
for that. I got kind of confused about it. Sorry.
This is going to make the next bit more interesting. Bite each other's head off. Time starts when you speak.
Okay. Here's the thing. Gilderoy Lockhart already had his own movie. It was called The Chamber of Secrets, and we already got what we needed to know from that character. I mean, I don't know how much more we can flesh out that character. He was, like you said, you described him, and like he was a duplicitous, like he's charming and the character, but I mean, he conveys all that in that film, and at the end, he's like, he's completely like it's done, and like we don't really need to know more about him as far as like why he did it. Right? He's a bad guy. He was an arrogant ass, and he was able to use his charisma to fool everybody until he met Harry Potter, Ron, and Hermione, that was able to call him on his bullshit. But so I just don't see like how you can make a character so dislikable and I mean, this is hard to have a whole movie because nobody would want to watch that, and especially with
you just said it. You just said it.
With it.
You just said it. He's an asshole. He's an asshole and fooled everybody with his charisma up until Harry Potter. Who let him do that? Who let him get that success? How did he get people in the place to be able to obliviate them, which is so hard to get in front of and do when there's actual magic flying around you? Can you answer that question? Chamber of Secrets does not answer that question for us. It puts him in a place where he's already done everything that he needed to do to get there. I want to know what it was, who was in his life that let him get that way, what happened in the life that made him get that type of ruthlessness, but still charming, where everybody up until Harry Potter believed him. There is nothing with Nick that fills out that kind of intrigue and that kind of mystery more than another medieval knight story whose one funny scene is going to be when his head nearly got chopped off.
No, it could have tons of funny scenes. I mean, where you don't, where a character it doesn't have much of a backstory, you find a right writer, the screenplay, you can add ton to it. It's so much like in that world of the ghost that's not hardly explored in the movies. And especially like I feel like Near Nick's Head of Snake is a great conduit to it because he is played by the most recognizable actor, the most capable comedic actor I can think of, and it's just one of the things where I feel like that it is more than just a scene. Like he can be more. Like he is like he can be a multifaceted character if you let him. Whereas like Gilderoy Lockhart, again, I don't feel like many people care after watching that necessarily want to know like his backstory. I think most of the people are glad he gets what's coming to him. But other than that, I don't think they don't see the need for coming back to want to know his background, like his origin story or anything. Like we've had plenty of like, I mean, origin story of these like certain like baddies, like how he got bad or how he got ruined, like with its Breaking Bad idea or whatever. I just don't feel like it would work.
You can give any character a backstory. There's so many characters in the Wizarding world that doesn't have a backstory that you can give into them, and you could say they deserve it, like the Bloody Baron or the Fat Friar. I want to know about Bloody Baron's. I could say I want to know about Bloody Baron's romance. I want to know about why Helena Ravenclaw didn't like her mother, but we didn't choose them because we didn't think it was that interesting. And Nick isn't that interesting. What is interesting is the villain you love to hate. Villain are the most interesting characters because you can empathize with them or you can hate them so much that you want to watch them. And Gilderoy, how can you love and be charmed by somebody so ruthless? And to your John Cleese point, Kenneth Branagh is just an iconic actor as John Cleese.
He is, but I mean, I thought you were going to get somebody to replace him, or if not, I mean, also he's also known for more playing back. I mean, more for just he's like
and time. All right, Shannon, you can continue that point though, as you are first up to close. The minute will start when you begin speaking.
The problem with Kenneth Branagh now is he is just known as like he's been cast now as a fairly like if you want an ethnic Russian or bad guy, like in the Jack Ryan Shaw Recruit or Tenet. And not really like he plays a very boring bad guy, which I mean, it's at his point, and I don't think he could be able to like give Gilroy Lockhart any kind of like more gravitas than what he did in the original. It'd feel like he'd be chasing his own tail, whereas John Cleese never was really given a chance to full-fledged with Nearly Headless Nick as far as like showing his convenient shops, and I feel like it would be a great movie, especially since he's still with us, that it'd be a great movie to further utilize John Cleese, who's still as funny as ever if you follow him on Twitter. And he will bring a great cast of British talent, comedic talent with him that will also enrich the Harry Potter lore, but also bring in fans that want more comedic and
time. All right. A good fight from Shannon there. Amaru, you close this one out for us. Time starts when you speak.
John Cleese and Kenneth Branagh are both iconic, and you seem to want to keep Cleese in the movie. I'd rather have somebody new try to live up to the icon, to bring a new story to life, and you seem to want to have that icon redo something he's already done in between all of the Harry Potter films. My movie is something new that people want to know about, that is actually intriguing, that has a reason to figure out how did this very complex and complicated character come to be. Your film, Nick, has a funny headless scene if you want a prequel, or maybe the headless hunt that they didn't flesh out in the movie if you want a midquel, whatever that's called, but there isn't enough there to get some depth or any type of meat in terms of wanting to know about it. People are clawing for what made Gilderoy what he is. Nick is a guy who almost got his head cut off. Nothing else there deserves or should get a prequel, sequel,
and time. All right, guys. Once again, another great fight from the two of you. Harry Potter passion coming out on both sides here. I'll send you to the back as we await the decision here. I will bring in our three judges, and we will go ahead and go to Haven first. As concise as you can hit it for me, who gets your point and what sold you?
This time around, I'm going Shannon. Nearly Headless Nick. He said it was played by John Cleese. He said that he could have an interesting backstory, as being a ghost. He was able to battle with Amaru in the 4-minute round. Amaru had a good guy that he picked, but it's just a bad guy. But I'm gonna give it to Shannon this time around.
I'm gonna have to agree with him. I'm gonna have to say Shannon as well. Amaru just for me kept saying that he's just charming, and he wants to know more about like how he got charming or how he got his silver tongue that he's using. It was actually something that Amaru said that kind of got me on Shannon's side, which was that it's just that one scene about Nearly Headless Nick, and that I feel like that's enough to get us interested, and you could flesh out the character so much. Well, Shannon was right. The second movie was his movie. That's pretty much all we need to know about that character, and that's Shannon really convinced me on Nearly Head and Stick.
All right. So with that, the game does go 1-1. Thank you, gentlemen. I will see you on the next one as we bring back our competitors and get into question number 3, which is, what is the best zombie film released in the 2000s? Now, for those of you who watched the last double event upload, this is zombie films, not Rob Zombie films. You already tortured somebody else with that question. You're welcome, Matt and Medee. This is zombies with the dead creatures that would probably make a Rob Zombie film better. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the timer. Amaru, you're up first. The time will start for you when you begin speaking.
Zombie films have fallen a lot into the same kind of options. You're either getting the slow-moving zombies or you're getting the mega-fast ones where we got to get either to a safe haven where everything is okay, or we're held up in a place to try to survive. And the only thing, especially in the 2000s, that kind of came through were unique tales. And the only zombie film in the 2000s that actually came through with something unique is 2007's Wreck, or short for Record. Not only did it bring life to zombie films, but also found footage films, 2 genres that had been done to death by that point, that actually put together to create one of the most scariest and thrilling films of the 2000s. And truthfully, one of the scariest movies you might ever see. So much so that the U.S. tried to make, this is a Spanish film, by the way, made in Spain, so good that the U.S. tried to remake it a year later and couldn't catch that lightning again because the original was so unique and honest. Wreck is one of the zombie movies that will wreck you for your entire life. You'll love it to death.
And time.
That's in the 2000s.
All right, Shannon, we flip over to you. A minute on the clock for you when you speak.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, especially, like the zombie drama, zombies genre was pretty much non-existent. That was until 2 British men by the name of Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg decided to come up with a love letter to their favorite filmmaker George A. Romero's and his films called Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead. Not only I think like was a fresh shot in the air as far as like comedies went, but also as far as like comedy horror. For so much time that it was always a mess, more misses and hits until Shaun of the Dead, and it helped invigorate the zombie genre, the configuration of the zombie drama, the genre that led to Zombieland and in the Apocalypse and several other like the films that have used the zombie film as a comedic way to express itself.
All right, and that will be time. I'm going to read 2 minutes on the clock when you speak.
From the very beginning, the characters in Wreck are relatable. You got the TV host Angela and the cameraman who you never see that we connect to because of the passion they have for their television show. That allows the found footage usage to actually be reliable, which becomes a huge reason why this movie is so intense and scary. You believe you're watching a TV show with people you care about, so when shit hits the fan, you think you're in the building with them. They get the majority of the movie is set in an apartment building. It creates a claustrophobic feeling. And being taken from that calm setting of being at a firehouse late at night into a building where you have no idea what's going on and you're jumping in, learning the mystery as it unfolds, make all of the horror elements feel more earned. From leaving the policeman up with the sick woman who's the first sick one, and then all of a sudden he falls down through the staircase to being locked in, and the government is telling you can't come out and you don't know why. The arguments between the crew, the police, and the residents as they're struggling to figure out why they're being locked in and the sickness that's going on, that all builds tension. When you learn that the little girl who had a dog who was sick, her dog might be the reason why this virus outbreak, and you look at her mom holding her, begging them to say, no, she has tonsillitis, no, and you're waiting, is she really sick, or is she about to do something, and all of a sudden she attacks her mom? All of that just leaves you at bated breath, And from beginning to end, every second builds tension, builds horror, builds dread. The pacing is perfect. Every second in the apartment gets more and more harrowed and more tension filled as more residents get infected in a cramped space. So you're fighting against somebody you were just fighting alongside 2 seconds ago. It basically becomes the horror version of Raid the Redemption. Just think about how epic that was in the close space and the action that came in. Take that and put it into the horror when it ends in a finale that's slow and creepy, and you're looking at it and say, they're fucked. Holy shit.
All right, and that'll be 2 minutes. Shannon, back to you. You are muted.
Okay. Shaun of the Dead is one of them films that it's just you defines rewatchability. Edgar Wright edits the film in a way that you have to rewatch it so much to understand what it's going. Rewatch it to understand what is fully going on with like this character, and it's a great zombie films. It uses as a metaphor about a fear of adulthood with this character. Sean and Ed are characters that are afraid of growing up or afraid of any part of adulthood. And it plays it very well with the comedic vibe of it. And also the tropes of the zombie film, it plays around well. It was the first zombie movie they ever used like the idea of like throwing records and people like bickering about how to kill a zombie. But what's also so great about it is it has the comedic things, but then it can also turn by the third act and play it so straight and become such the emotional something because you follow these characters all the way through. These flawed but likable characters, and you begin to see how Sean begins to grow in his relationship with his ex-girlfriend and his friendship with Ed, and how they've been tugging his OC relationship with his mother, and how the zombie apocalypse is like his reckoning as far as like what relationship can he needs to focus on the most. But yeah, Edgar Wright does a great job of just also making the zombies their own sort of characters. Like you remember the checkout girl and the big zombie when they meet there, and you also remember like all these zombie characters that are menacing but also fit with the comedic tone enough to be like to make it so funny but also so like horrific and gory as well to follow that the reference to the Romero films. And I don't think any zombie film has ever met with it comedic wise, or it's like way it can be able to play around with that in the drama and tension as well.
And time. All right, guys, 4 minutes on the clock for the open round. Time starts when the first person speaks.
Everything you just mentioned is about comedy. And yes, it's an amazing comedy. That's why Shaun of the Dead is a comedy with zombie in it, not really a zombie film. And two things. If you don't like the comedy, and there's a lot of people who don't, or once the comedy gets old, Shaun of the Dead becomes a run-of-the-mill zombie movie because Nick Frost can get very frustrating as the person you're living with. After a while, he gets old, and some of the Edgar Wright quick edits that does the same scene over and over and over and over again, that can get old. And that being such a big part of the film, if you are not into the comedy or if you're starting to get tired of it, all you're left with are zombies you've seen everywhere else, tropes you've seen everywhere else. Let's get to the Winchester and hunker down. Let's get to whatever place we need to go and hunker down. It's not funny anymore once you get there, not as much, and it's like every other zombie film.
Also, well, okay. The thing about Wreck is I would say it's a better found footage film than it is a zombie film. It follows all the lines of as far as like found footage, but as far as like the zombie, it's very like all the quick like that what you were describing, the quick edits or whatever. It can be disoriented to those who've never watched a found footage film or understand what's going on, and also the people you're following. It turns out that like Angela, the lead newscaster you're following around, she's always caring about just the story. she's a very hard sympathetic character, feel sympathy for. And then like Pablo, the person behind the camera, is just that same little trope you see in like Cloverfield or any person that's behind a camera, just like, okay, I'm just going to follow everything, not interact or do anything, just and stuff. And I just it loses a lot. I mean, towards the end, where it bumps this whole like possession plot into it, and it adds too much stuff into this film that really, frankly, could go just as fine as just being as what it was as a found footage film. But I don't think it really works with this the zombie nature. Whereas like Shaun of the Dead is able, as the love letter to the zombie film, and follow. It can recognize the tropes, but also kind of go against them as far as like what they are, and as characters understand that they are in a zombie movie, but they also can end up making the same mistakes as the people that are in zombie movies, because it's one of the things where it just because you know the rules doesn't mean you always follow them in the end.
So you just mentioned that there's too many things in Rec that takes it away from the zombie film, especially possession. However, that possession storyline is literally in the last 10 minutes of the film, an hour and a half film. So there's not much more than the found footage, which you say takes away from the zombie film. That actually the found footage makes the zombie film more enhanced because it creates a claustrophobic environment. It puts you in the zombie apocalypse with everyone else. Whereas in Shaun of the Dead, the comedy doesn't enhance the zombie aspects. It makes it a comedy. It makes it a comedy that allows the zombie aspects to enhance the comedy if you like it, not the comedy enhancing a zombie film. And lastly, you talked about Angela saying she only cares about the story. Of course she does, because she's a TV anchor who's passionate about the story, which makes you connected to her. And on top of that, one of the things that make you so tense in the film is not knowing why the government isn't letting you out. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's a zombie or if it's a virus. And she's so passionate, she says keep it rolling because she wants to make sure people know the truth, and the government doesn't cover it up. That's why you care.
Well, and unfortunately, that's never cleared up until I know there's sequels to it, but it just ends like a lot of found footage movies. It ends when it's really getting interesting. Like there's another sequel to it, but but why did I need to watch another sequel when Shaun did just a six-screen job of doing a completely character transformation by the very end, and it's a perfect ending to that film.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go on to the minute closings. Amaru, I bounce back to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Quarantine is not a sequel. It is a remake that failed because they tried to make money off a movie that was amazing. Most zombie films, the best zombie films end on the truth that you really can't escape a zombie apocalypse. And you do understand what is happening because you understand the dog got sick, the dog went out, his virus transferred over, got everybody else sick. And that's actually the only explanation you need, because the whole point of Rec is to be in a position of not knowing what's going on and only surviving, which is what zombie movies should be. Shaun of the Dead doesn't do that in terms of a zombie film. It does that for a comedy. It lets the zombie aspects make all the comedy more enhanced, again, if you like that comedy, which is very subjective. So it's everything you want about the best comedy of the 2000s, but whether it's the best zombie film doesn't really hold as much water, especially to a movie that actually does something unique in a genre that has been the same. They're slow or they're fast. You got to get to a safe place or you got to hunker down. When they're slow, the Winchester, they hunker down.
All right, that'll be time. Shannon, back to you. Final minute when you speak.
You kind of answered it. I mean, it integrates the zombies more than I think that Rec does. So then, overall, as a film, and I wasn't talking about the sequel. I wasn't before recording. Rec itself, the Spanish one, has sequels as well that elaborate more. I guess elaborate more on plot or whatever. But that's but again, it all hinges on you watching this one film or feel like you want it to continue with this storyline. Whereas, like I said, Shaun of the Dead is, like I said, I love that George Romero and honors the zombie film so much, but also it's helped reinvigorate this comedy because it spawned, like I said, it spawns so many other, it spawned like Zombieland and like in an apocalypse, and that kind of like the action more in Zombieland, and also like the musical, and like if it wasn't for that, I mean, like I said, the zombies are the thing. Like I said, it's the metaphor for growing up. And like I said, it's like I said, old zombies have a metaphor, and like I said, Sean Dead has it.
And that's time. All right, guys, another well-fought battle. I'll go ahead and send you to the back as we'll go ahead and bring our judges in. So for anybody watching at home, before I go to our judges, just to clarify the points at the end, because both of them were technically correct in their stating. Rec itself did have 3 sequels that followed up in 2009, 2012, and 2014. The same writers and directors did carry over from film to film. There was also the remake in 2008 of Quarantine. That movie got a single sequel that was not a remake of Rec 2. It was a totally separate story that was a sequel to the American version. That said, both of those films are awful anyway, so it's not worth checking them out. With that said, I will go to Noah first, as concise as we can get it. Who gets your point and what sold you? You are mute. There you go.
Amaru gets the point for me, just because of what he stated about it being a zombie film, not a comedy film. Also, he just got me really excited to watch the movie, so I'm probably going to go watch it tonight.
All right. Nothing you can do better than get somebody excited. Alan, I go to you. Who gets your vote and why?
I get the vote because both of them are wrong. Train to Busan is the best zombie. Oh, sorry.
That did not
Actually,
come out in 2000s.
It came out in 2000s, right?
2010.
Let's see. Both brought a really good arguments for both those films. I'm not going to take away from Shannon because Shaun of the Dead is a zombie movie. Whether it's comedy or whatever, it is a zombie movie. In fact, Maru did a great job of painting the picture of Rec. But every time he tried to attack Shannon, it was more opinion based than facts about the film. So I'm actually gonna give it to Shannon.
All right, so we have our first split vote. So we move over to, as he is titled there, La Dame Blanche Haven. As concise as we can get it, to move on to question 4, who gets the vote and the lead?
Yeah, they both had some good points. Amaru was hitting it, with his first minute jumping in. Once they got to the 4 minutes, I'm gonna agree with Dr. Spaceman. It was more factual. It wasn't factual based. It was more his opinions. Shannon was bringing up a lot of good points when it came to Shaun of the Dead. I think there was a couple things that he missed in there that would have put him over the edge. So at this time, I'll have to give it to Amaru on this one. I don't know why he didn't bring up that it was a foreign film and Americans don't like read it and shit, but he didn't. So yeah, I have to give it to Amaru.
All right. So with that, Amaru does get the second point of the game. I'm going to go ahead and send our judges to the back. Thank you, as I bring in our competitors. As this match gets closer and closer, every single fight gets closer. And so now let's go ahead. And there's clearly some passion behind Harry Potter. There was clearly some passion behind zombie films. Let's go ahead and ratchet that up just one more time, because there's no way you can't bring emotion into this question. And that question is, what is the most frustrating film of all time? Now, obviously, everyone handles frustration and defines it differently, but both these competitors were allowed to select their film and approach the argument however they may. So at this point, it's who convinces the most. And Shannon, you are up first on the clock. The time will start when you begin speaking.
So in 2019, I went and saw one of my most anticipated films of that year, if not all time. The previous films beforehand I enjoyed and was wanting to see the conclusion of this saga. So when you can only imagine the flight after I left theater after watching Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This film was a major letdown in so many ways, and it feels like, and the thing is, it shouldn't have been. It should have been more cohesive, but it feels like the studio's plan of not like taking out of like this saga really bit its ass at this movie because nothing pays. It doesn't make the people that hated Last Jedi happy, and it doesn't make the people who loved Last Jedi, the other previous films, happy. It doesn't please anybody.
All right, and that will be time on the clock. So obviously, as you guys know, we pre-record these matches. So this is something that the audience will know, but more of an interesting fact for the competitors. This is actually the second match in a row in which Rise of Skywalker has been selected for a question in which you are shitting on the film. So that's more of an interesting fact. Judges don't take that into account for the argument. I just found it funny when the answer was submitted. With that said, Amaru, a minute on the clock for you when you speak.
What do you do as a studio when you have one of the most successful young adult and children book franchises of all time that takes real life issues with kids to dealing with death, family issues, abandonment, puberty, love loss, perseverance, bullying, has representation for women, people of color, and the LGBTQ community, true connection to the New York and Bay Area communities, all wrapped in the deep lore of Greek mythology, set with modern references that's laugh out loud funny, action-packed, tear-jerking, and so good that it leads to a 5-book series, a 5-book Roman mythology sequel, a 3-book Egyptian mythology spinoff, a 5-book Apollo spinoff, a 3-book Norse mythology spinoff, and it gives the author a publishing company that allows others to share stories through true eyes of children to tell the cultural mythologies from Indian mythology to West African to Chinese. Such a successful book franchise. What do? They make the worst opening movie of all time and crash and burn years of absolutely amazing storytelling that hits with children and adults. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief, can fuck all the way off.
It took everything I had not to laugh. That was passion personified. All right, gentlemen, we have the Star Wars movie I don't think actually pleased anyone versus a franchise destroyer. Well, they both destroyed a franchise for a little bit. Let's be real. If The Mandalorian didn't exist, Star Wars would probably be dead. So let's see which one was worse. Shannon, back to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, there's no bones about it. Rise of Skywalker is a fucking mess of a film, and it like I said, the creative ideas, it's just so frustrating. Like, first of all, the Emperor comes back. It just appears like nothing but an open scroll. He's back, and also even more stupider. Later on, you find out, oh, it's Rey. It's somebody that was from no one. Is of all people his granddaughter. An idea that nobody loved. Nobody was loved that idea. Oh, and it's just it continues with it. Like, again, another frustrating thing is too, like, the loss of Carrie Fisher, which was again out of his hands, but the way that she is used in that film, it makes me just frustrated. What could have been as far as like that character, because obviously that character was meant to do more than what she does in that film, and like I said, it's like seemed like the screenplay was wrote by Reddit, because it was like a referendum to anything the Last Jedi has said, and it completely retcons all the major plot points of it. So again, it's like it says, "Oh, fuck this other movie that was supposed to be a part of this trilogy, but forget this movie that we spent over $500 million and more to promote or whatever." It doesn't make any sense. It's just so crazy, like frustrating as a Star Wars fan to see like you had such a great beginning and maybe a divisive middle, but still a lucrative middle that was still elicited emotion, but then you fuck it all away with this wet fart of a film, and it's just it's really what it is. And again, Adam Driver, it's Kyle Rand, his character art is completely undercut and unserved. Finn's, Paul Dameron's, I mean, their character is like, what character art are they given at the end of this film?
All right, that'll be time. Amaru, time starts when you speak.
As you can tell, I hate this film, and let me give you every detail. While at the start, they aged up the main cast, which forces romance into a story that actually more naturally progresses because they're actually younger children. So them growing into their feelings and growing into puberty gives them all meaning. Where in the movie they're 16. Romance. The best villain in the series, Luke, who betrays them at the end of the book, is actually revealed to be the traitor halfway through, undermining him as a good villain, because in the middle of the film, Percy already beats him, when in reality, at the end of the book, Luke almost kills Percy and Grover with both strength and intelligence. Also, speaking of Grover is supposed to be a shy, unsure of himself, and made to fight through all of this uncertainty to become a selfless hero, not a hip, corny line spewing man goat who can dance his way to 3 women on his arm, leading to a choreographed Flow Rider song and dance. He's not supposed to do that. Percy is not supposed to already have hold of his powers. Annabeth is not supposed to be arrogant as she is in the movie. None of them are relatable when you actually get to grow with the characters from the start of the film, from the start of the book through the end of that book, as they're still fumbling through everything. You actually enjoy them and build off to a better franchise. On top of that, instead of a mission to save his mom that leads to earned run-ins with gods and monsters, there's this stupid 3-pearl MacGuffin that makes the plot convoluted and unearned. Instead of a genuinely thoughtful, action-centric, hilarious coming-of-age story that could start years and years of great storytelling, we get a 2-hour TikTok video of an adventure that made Uma Thurman yell, "I used to date your daddy." What a waste of Logan Lerman, Uma Thurman, Steve Coogan, Pierce Brosnan, Paul Giamatti, Sean Bean, Rosario Dawson. This movie is an epic failure. And what's more frustrating, starting off and killing something that could have been great, or messing up something that the entire saga.
And time. All right. Let's go ahead. 4 minutes on the clock when the first person speaks.
The thing about what you're saying, Maury, is like it was a young adult book, the fantasy book. It was made to a film. The Hollywood is littered with the bodies of the movies, the one-off movies that the franchise they were trying to make, like Inkheart, Moral Instruments. I mean, they're always trying to be like / Harry Potter / Hunger Games films that completely failed, and then they
Which one of those films led the author to having a published? Which one of those films led the author to having a publishing company to allow him to let other authors do those type of stories? None of them.
Okay, but then but again, it's just like I say, I don't think Percy Jackson's as far as like it doesn't have a cultural standpoint as far as like the Star Wars films have had and a focal fan base. Like you have to walk on tiptoes to like the stuff to be appeased to these, the Star Wars fans. But they had already did. It had 2 critically well received films. And
you said it before. It wasn't. It might have been critically well taken, but the fans were very divisive on it, and that makes a film like that even more easily frustratable because the fans are so fickle. Everything you're arguing about the Rise of Skywalker, you're not arguing about the movie. You're arguing about the saga. You're saying that the saga has no cohesion. You says that's not about the film itself. You said they were mad about Palpatine. When that trailer came out, everybody was psyched about the Palpatine laugh. They didn't love. You don't love Rise of Skywalker because The Last Jedi set up something that people didn't like. And what J.J. Abrams ended up doing was having to fix all the mistakes of the discohesion of the saga. Everything you just said in your opening was about the fact that Force Awakens was great, The Last Jedi did something different, and The Rise of Skywalker screwed up the people who liked it or didn't hate it. That's frustration at the whole thing. If there was actual cohesion, then this movie we just got probably wouldn't be as lauded, as hated as it is, because one, Star Wars fans are fickle, but more importantly, even if they weren't, you are only upset about the fact that Last Jedi turned everything on its head from Force Awakens, and The Rise of Skywalker had to course correct. You're frustrated at the saga. You're not frustrated at the film.
Well, I was going to say, well, the thing about Percy Jackson, I watched it, and it's the biggest crime of it is that it's super forgettable. That's for sure. And also, it has a sequel. I mean, it wasn't. It must not have been as device. It must have been, the people. It must have been somewhat. The producers must have saw enough of people wanted to see it to make a sequel to the film that you say that people didn't, that nobody that love that you hated as fans. But later on, they made a sequel to. I mean, it's a direct sequel with the same cast, most of the same leads and stuff like that. It didn't change anything. Problem with the leads, you said that there was the main lead that you had a problem with.
It's
So
forgettable
they
because they didn't follow
it.
what they should have done. The sequel happened because people wanted to try to give it something else. They stopped at 2 films out of 5 books. And you know why? That is actually getting a TV show reboot because everybody wants to see it get justice done for Percy Jackson. Yes, it made a sequel because the fan base is that rabid for something doing it right. And the sequel was only 10% better. Don't let me get started on that film, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the original. Everything you just said is because there is a fan base behind it who is so frustrated by how forgettable the movie was for such an unforgettable book and series.
But yeah, but then like with Rise of Skywalker, like they cut characters. Like, yeah, like it was so they did, but that they cut characters. Like Rose Tico got completely cut out when she was set up on Last Jedi. Maz Kanata, a cool badass character that you were standing up, but never like it's all put on the sideline. And again, then the movies also tries to be these fan service thing with Chewbacca and like giving him a medal, and for like the 3 people that were playing it, he didn't get one at the first Star Wars film.
And that is time. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into the closings. Shannon, you do continue with 1 minute on the clock when you start speaking.
Yeah, I will continue that. Yeah, like the several like the things like as far as like the lines that the Rise of Scarborough pulls up if it never like pays off. Like the whole thing with Finn, like he wants to tell Rose something, and it's like supposed to be alluded to that he had the Force like after the fact, but it's never paid off. Like he never gets to talk to her or whatever. Like don't do it. You're just frustrating fans. Like want to know like for sure like what's going on with Finn, and then like Rey like. She goes to Sky. She ends up taking Skywalker name, which isn't wrong in itself. But she goes to Tatooine of all places, which we know that like Leia never went to, and Luke hated. So why pay off to a place that seems like only just for nostalgia for again the first A New Hope, which it seemed like J.J. Abrams already had, and I mean, and it's not new because Chris Terrio, also did Justice League and. He did. He's done other Batman v Superman. So.
All right, Amaru, you get the last word on the regulation debates. Time starts when you begin speaking.
You want to talk about cutting side characters like Rose and Maz Kanata? How about cutting off the guy who's on the title and cutting him off from the jump, and your 3 main characters, your trio that's supposed to go up against Ron, Harry, and Hermione? You talk about not knowing what Finn is going to say and what he means, even though you do already feel for that character. How about not knowing why Luke is why he is, not knowing that Luke is actually probably more powerful than your main character, and cutting your villain legs off at the beginning? Everything you're talking about has a root in the previous film that made the saga not cohesive. All your frustration comes from that. All your frustration comes from the fact that the movie before was so frustrating to deviate from Force Awakens. From jump, my movie took one of the most successful, most thought-provoking, one of the best commercial and critical book franchises of all time and original stories, and completely shat on it from jump.
And time. All right, guys, another great fight. I'm going to go ahead and send the 2 of you to the back as I'll go ahead and bring in our judges. So just quick, while I was doing a bit of research and fact-checking for this round, I found this, which is funny. And here, Amaru, here's a compliment to pay you. Amaru's cohort, William Bibiani of the Schmoedown, a couple years ago, actually wrote an article about 25 young adult franchises where they got a film or two and then died off. Some of the ones you may have forgotten about include Aragon, The Seeker, Seventh Son, the Spiderwick Chronicles, and my personal favorite failure, the Divergent series, which was somehow both successful enough and enough of a fucking failure to get 3 films and still not finish the series out. I don't know how you do that. That takes a special kind of something. Alan, I will go to you first. As concise as we can get it here, who gets your vote and why?
My mind's a little bit blown because I'm one of the few people who actually enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. But Shannon just blew my mind because I never really thought about, why did she go to Tatooine? Leia was never there. Luke hated it. Oh God, that totally makes sense now. Holy crap, that makes it even more stupid. So I'm gonna give it to Shannon.
All right, so the first vote does go to Shannon. Haven, I go to you. Who does your vote go to and why?
I'm again in agreement with Dr. Spaceman. I'm giving this one to Shannon. He made a lot of good points about the film. Amaru kept talking about the book, which, we're not talking about the book. We're talking about the movie. He kept bringing up, like, this character from the book or this scene from the book. And, and it's a children's movie. Like, unless you're a child watching it, like, But, Shannon just had a better argument in that round for me.
All right. Judges, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you all to the back because we have reached a point where we do have a 2-2 draw, which means we will be going to the blind round. Now, to briefly explain how this works, the way this is going to work is this is a question the competitors were not given ahead of time. They will have a couple minutes here to prep their argument upon receiving it. The way that this will work to add even further confusion to the pile is I'm going to give you guys a generalization of a question. It'll be something very general that you will name a movie off of. Once I give you the generalization and you both have submitted an answer, then we will go into the specific question. Whether or not you agree that your answer properly answers the question for you, you will have to argue what you gave. We've seen more than once already that the upset answer can win if you're good enough, so get as creative as you possibly can. Once the answers have been submitted, we'll go off screen for a couple minutes. It'll be a few seconds for you to give these guys a chance to prepare, and then we will go from there. All right, guys, so here's how this is going to work. I will go ahead and give you your generalization first. Are you both ready?
Yes.
All right. Your question is, name me a film featuring Samuel L. Jackson released in the 1990s.
Pulp Fiction.
Long Kiss Goodnight.
All right. We have Pulp Fiction versus Long Kiss Goodnight. Your question is, why is that the worst Samuel L. Jackson film of the 1990s? All right, guys. So once again, to remind you guys, it is Pulp Fiction for Amaru. It is Long Kiss Goodnight for Shannon. They will have a few minutes off screen. We will be back in just a second. All right, guys, and we are back. What has been just a matter of seconds for you guys has been a couple minutes for us, but we are back and ready to compete. To remind you, the question that is at hand is, why is the film that they named off the generalization the worst Samuel L. Jackson film of the 1990s? As a reminder, Amaru picked Pulp Fiction. Shannon picked Long Kiss Goodnight. Amaru, because you answered first, you will be going first in the round. So with that said, I'll go ahead and bring in your timer, and the blind round will start when you begin speaking. Best of luck to both of you gentlemen.
Everything you know about Samuel L. Jackson, he's a motherfucker. He yells, he curses, he says kind of funny things sometimes, and it's a lot of the same role over and over and over again, to the point where there are times where Samuel L. Jackson in a movie becomes grating and old and overused. And the movie that started out with is Pulp Fiction. It's the worst Samuel L. Jackson film of the 1990s. As a film in general, when Samuel L. Jackson's in it, pretty good. But it's the worst Samuel L. Jackson film is because it's what created the idea that Samuel L. Jackson can do nothing else. It pigeonholed him into one role of being that motherfucker who yells and screams and did not allow him to get out of anything else besides that one role, paying Samuel L. Jackson Jules Winfield again and again and again. And that's why it's the worst film of the 90s, because it set him up to not do anything better for decades.
And time. All right, Shannon, 1 minute on the clock when you speak.
Yeah, as far as like the glut of '90s action films that went on there, like the Long Kiss Goodnight, again, was one of the ones that had a whole lot of hype going on to it. But Ray Harlan, like the big action director who had done Die Hard 2, and then Shane Black, the Golden Boy screenwriter with the Lethal Weapon and Predator, and it all kind of is a jumble mess in A Long Kiss Goodnight. And it's and the reason it's the worst Samuel L. Jackson film is where he is the sidekick throughout the film. He's given these quippy Shane Black one-liners that do not fit, and he has to work against Gina Davis, who is the focus of the movie to a detriment, that because she, with her and Ray Harlan, this cannot be able to coexist as a lead actress.
All right, and that is going to be time. Amaru, back to you.
There is a reason why Quentin Tarantino is so divisive. Either you love him or you absolutely hate him. You hate the violence. You hate the feet. You hate the movie style. And Samuel L. Jackson plays right into that on why it's just too much. It's too overbearing. You talked about a convoluted mess. Pulp Fiction is the epitome of a convoluted mess that you have to think about to figure out where it goes. But again, more importantly, not only as a movie is it brash and overbearing and can be really just harsh on your senses. It's Samuel L. Jackson who does that, and it not only does it hurt the film itself, it becomes the worst Samuel L. Jackson film of the 90s because it's the one you can go back to and say, this is why I don't like him. This is why he's not for me. And in other films, when he actually gets to do something more, you see, oh, why couldn't he do that before? As in The Long Kiss Goodnight, where he's a sleaze bag you actually kind of love, and it's really focused on the chemistry. The chemistry between the two is what makes Long Kiss Goodnight so good, and you want to follow them. It is not the brash, yelling, bad motherfucker that we know Samuel L. Jackson is. It's somebody who has to care for another person, and he does best when he has to care for another person that isn't like him. He has to tone down everything that he does when he has to play off somebody who isn't like him and care for somebody like him. That is why Die Hard with a Vengeance is so good, because Bruce Willis is the exact opposite, and those opposites attract. In Pulp Fiction, everything that John Travolta does kind of exacerbates the harshness and the crudeness that makes him a character that is just hard to watch and hard to follow for a long time, and continues to make Samuel L. Jackson, when he isn't doing something different, hard to watch and hard to follow.
All right, and that'll be time. Shannon, 2 minutes for you when you speak.
Yeah, The Long Kiss Goodnight is indicative as far as like how like Samuel L. Jackson, was perceived outside of anything that he did with Quentin Tarantino, which was Quentin always gave him a golden part in every movie, especially in the 90s. Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, especially. But Long Kiss Goodnight is indicative of like the action movie glut where like you could, like his kind of role they still couldn't trust the actor of his caliber to like lead a movie, so they always would put him either as supporting or aside him with a actor or actress that didn't quite meet his level. And I said Gina Davis in this film doesn't quite meet his level, even though she's set up as an action star and stuff. She just doesn't quite do it. And her inner scenes with Samuel L. Jackson just does not click at all. And it's indicative of like any role that he had, the majority of roles that he had outside of anything that Quentin Tarantino, that how hard it was to any writer and director to harness that energy that he had in Pulp Fiction to be able to in any other film that he was in the 90s, because he was such a force of nature in the Pulp Fiction. And yeah, it's just more glaring in like The Long Kiss Goodnight. Like there's a great character idea in there, and he tries to, but he can't be able to like work with the dialogue or work with the direction enough to make his character stand out in this film, which he does in a lot of other films, and it's just and stuff. So it's just disheartening that if he can't, when a film underutilizes Samuel L. Jackson, especially in the 90s, Samuel L. Jackson again, when the majority of the audiences were just again understand, even though was acting for at least a decade before in movies, but yeah, like it just it's just Long Kiss Goodnight is just indicative of how bad he's been.
And time. 4 minutes on the clock when the first person speaks.
Gina Davis doesn't live up to Samuel L. Jackson. Gina Davis is one of the greatest actresses of our time and was so good, she knew when to leave. That entire movie hinges on two things: their chemistry and Gina Davis being able to do and pay off the split personality, the woman who was a ruthless assassin who, when she had a daughter, had to deal with her maternal instincts and bring emotion and heart to an action buddy movie that works for her great performance to take Samuel L. Jackson's more muted, more charming, not as outlandish performance and make those two work together. Action and violence and gore work so much better when it has heart behind it. And Gina Davis's heart to make them work together makes you care about them. Pulp Fiction is nothing but go, 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 go. No heart, nothing to really grab onto except the bombastic, the yelling, the cursing that Samuel L. Jackson brings. And it's hard to connect with characters when you have that convoluted timeline and nothing more than on 10 the whole time. That is why Long Kiss Goodnight is definitely not his worst film and why Pulp Fiction is in the 90s.
Well, Gina Davis at this point Gina Davis with the right director can be able to help, can show how great an actress she was. But with Rennie Harlan, this film, and you know what other film they did together? A little film that most people don't remember called Cutthroat Island. That was a complete financial disaster in itself. Like, yeah, like she definitely a great actress, but it needs like the right director. It maybe if Ridley Scott or like even Quentin Tarantino could like the director and something that she would have been able to elevate. But Rennie Harlan, they mix like oil and water. They could not work together enough to make her a capable action lead in the films that she was in of his. And again with Pulp Fiction, who doesn't watch it and like want to be Samuel L. Jackson's character in that film? He is the epitome of cool.
The people who don't want to watch it are the ones who can't take something that's on 10 100% of the time. They need some emotion. They need some heart. You want to talk about Rennie Harlan movies. We're not talking about Cutthroat Island. We're talking about A Long Kiss Goodnight. You could do the same thing and said, oh, he did Die Hard 2, which worked great. It doesn't matter about the other films. It talks about what we're looking at now, and A Long Kiss Goodnight works perfectly with Gina Davis coming towards what was her the part of career where she was only taking roles that she wanted to take and didn't really want to do so much movie after movie after, and she was able to dig into a character that has to fight with her own emotions and fight with her own instincts, combating each other, creating emotion, creating heart, with then combats with a person who's a sleaze but is charming and creates that kind of connection you want to see, that you need to have to balance out the violence, the gore, and all the action scene. Pulp Fiction doesn't do that. It doesn't give you that balance. Samuel L. Jackson does not have that balance in. It's on 10 100% of the time, and a lot of people don't like that.
Okay, but again, I don't understand like how like again that performance is again like it's the performance that anybody watch that movie is usually the one to go to. The one that everybody quotes the lines. The mog that he gives in that film.
Everybody that likes
lunch scene.
everybody that
Again,
likes
emotion
film.
about wanting to leave the job and stuff. I mean, and
everybody that likes that film, but there are plenty of people who don't like that type of action, that don't like that type of on 10, and that made him so much of an old character when he's doing it later on. That there's everybody likes Long Kiss Goodnight because it has that balance. It has everything you want, where Pulp Fiction is just one note.
And that will be time on the 4 minutes. Let me pause it there. All right, Amaru, we continue with you for the 1 minute closing. Time starts when you speak.
Everything Shannon just brought up is opinion-based. Opinion-based means that some people like it and some people don't, which means if you're arguing against opinion, if you want to prove something to somebody, you have to prove it to somebody across all opinions. People who like action and like emotion, who can deal with both. And if you don't like full-on action, you don't like Pulp Fiction. If you don't like, but you do like A Long Kiss Goodnight because it gives you the action as well as the emotion that people who don't like action on 10 will gravitate to. So that's why Long Kiss Goodnight is not the worst, and you can use that as a way to say it's much better than a Pulp Fiction film. A Pulp Fiction film that is on 10 all the time, that is just goes against the grain and tears at you because there's nothing to balance everything out. And all of that is what Samuel L. Jackson is in the movie. Not only does it do it there, but it makes him a character for the rest of his career, just the yelling.
And time. All right, Shannon, last word of the night. 1 minute when you speak.
Again, the biggest crime you could make in the 90s is to misuse Samuel L. Jackson in a film. And like Mark said, they brought like Die Hard with Vengeance was it was a great film that did use it well, and also Pulp Fiction because he was able to have a director and a writer to be able to put his character and make his character forefront and make you care about him. Whereas The Long Kiss Goodnight, again, he's just relegated to the mentor sidekick role that he was like given to throughout the 90s, like the one that would kind of appear throughout the film, but would hardly be ever given the full on like fight action scene that we knew like Samuel Jackson would be capable of. And again, it's emotion about opinion about like action. Like I think Pulp Fiction it doesn't have to use action. It's dialogue is its key on it, and like the Samuel Jackson and Tarantino's dialogue are golden, and unfortunately his and Shane's Black isn't, and that's the difference.
And that will be time on the fight. Gentlemen, no matter what way it goes, I do want to say great job to both of you. This was a great game to watch, but a decision will be made. I will send you to the back. And as I bring our judges on screen, I am going to inform the audience that unfortunately, at the time of recording, we are working on a little bit of a time crunch. So the judges have been asked to keep it to answers only. If they have a one-sentence blurb, they can give it, but we are looking basically just for the answer. And for that, I turn to Haven. Who gets your vote in this final battle?
My final vote, I'm going. I am going with Shannon. He brought a better point, and he talked a lot about Pulp Fiction being a better movie and how Samuel Jackson's career, everybody remembers that. So I'm going with Shannon.
All right, the first vote does go to Shannon, which means we go to Noah. Who gets your vote and why? Or, well, who gets your vote and if it's quick?
Amaru, he made Pulp Fiction feel like it's a shit movie. He made me feel like it's a shit movie. So.
All right, Amaru gets a second vote, which means, Alan, we go to you for the tiebreaker. Where does your vote go?
I'm also going to go with Amaru. He flipped that pigeonhole of Samuel L. Jackson perfectly. So, Amaru.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for all of your help tonight. We will go ahead and bring you out because your winner for this evening is Amaru Moses, who takes the victory in a final score of 3-2. And again, as I said, unfortunately for Mr. Moses, we are on a slight bit of a time crunch, so this will be a bit of an abbreviated discussion. What I will say to you, sir, is that every single person I talked to when I said you were a part of the bracket who has seen you play hyped you up, and you have lived up to the hype, good sir. This was an incredible fight. But now I give you your next opponent. As with every one of our competitors, you enter a bracket based on your results today. You enter the 1-0 bracket for our 16 winners, and you will take on someone you are very familiar with in a random sense. Malcolm Lay is your opponent. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to go in the same way I always do. Prepared, ready to go, ready for a fight.
All right. Thanks so much, man. That's unfortunate we got pushed for time, but get yourself some
game,
food.
Jenny. Good game.
And have a great night. Thanks, sir. All right. And we will go ahead and bring in his opponent, Mr. Shannon Briggs. And good sir, I will compliment you as well. As I said, I'd never seen him play, but all I'd heard were compliments. I had no clue who you were, so I had no clue what to expect out of you. And good sir, you brought it. For all the rookies that have played, this was a very, very impressive performance. You took them to the wire more than once. Based on the way the judges were reacting, I have a good feeling that all of these were split. Just the two happened to line up. That's why we got over it quicker. But how are you feeling after your first match?
Oh, I'm feeling good. It's it took a little bit out of me. I won't lie. Amaru is I all respect to him. I expect nothing less from him as far as his with our movie fight and stuff. And it's like I said, all I want to do was just like put in here and just I want to see how well I would be in this situation. I always want to be part of this and just debate about films, and always thought I would be good at it. And just seeing how it was, and it feels good to hear that it sounds like I did a good job of oppressing those that had not heard about me before. So.
Absolutely. I would say you definitely did. It's just the unfortunate circumstance of the way that the wheel spun out. We had so many of our rookies paired up against so many of our experienced vets. One of our judges can tell you how that felt, and it's not a fun experience. So I do appreciate your game, and you did a great job today. You also get to go into a tournament bracket, just because no one deserves to lose and not play again for like 4 months. So you will get another go, not too soon, but soon enough. And your opponent will be Mr. Frank Newberry, who was the very first, one of the very first competitors we had of the reboot. He took on Caleb Hansen and lost in what I still maintain overall is probably one of the funniest matches we've ever had. So what do you know about him? And either way, I'll be looking forward to having you back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much from outside. I did watch that match, and it was a very entertaining match. And in jail, I mean, anyone that has Caleb in it is usually definitely usually a good one to not take too seriously as far as like him in general. But he is a very fun guy. And but as far as my next opponent, like I said, I look forward to meeting him, and I mean, anybody can get in here and be able to and do this. I have the utmost respect for. So I just look forward to this having a good, fair fight with him whenever it arises.
All right, absolutely, man. Thank you, and I look forward to having you back in the near future. And guys, with that, we are only one match away from having our final 16 matches done. Amaru was the player that everybody praised, but I had never gotten to see personally. The next guy up is the guy who I have said from day one is the best player to have played that has never won a belt. Jeremy Adams returns to the Movie Battleground against Kevin Moreno, and that will be up very, very shortly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to both of our competitors, Amaru Moses and Shannon Briggs. They both brought it tonight. Thank you to our judges, Haven Pendergast, Alan Shepard, and Noah McCausland. You guys all did a great job helping me. And thank you to you watching all of these Movie Battleground episodes. We will see you next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care.